Welcome to Troop 40 here at Camp Roosevelt. Okay, my name is Rick Wrobel. I'm the Scoutmaster at Troop 40, Houston, Texas. Scoutmaster at St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church. I was born in a little town called Stoddard, Wisconsin, November 14th, 1952. I mean, my aunt, my father's sister was a wave during World War II. She met a Marine in Washington, D.C. from Texas, so they moved to Texas. And my dad was an airman during Korean conflict in San Diego. My mother was a California girl, and she only took one winter in Wisconsin before it was time to move south. So he followed his sister down to Texas.
Yeah, and so what neighborhood did you grow up in?
Oak Fork. Still there.
And so we know you went to middle school at Frank Black. Where'd you go to high school?
Walter.
What year did you graduate?
71.
Okay. The world was
Long
changing.
time ago.
Yeah.
No, I never. I did sports, baseball, and things like that when I was a kid. But I hadn't camped a day in my life till I joined the troop.
And did you go through the Cub Scout route?
I was a Cub Scout, got my Arrow of Light, but there was no troop around. Nobody knew that there was any further to go. So that was it. I didn't do Boy Scouts.
What do you remember about your first camp out with the troop?
Oh.
Where was
First camp out with the troop was a place called Circle Lake. That's where we had our February trail camp every year. Circle Lake was a piece of property owned by a parishioner who has since donated it to the diocese, so now it's a diocese retreat center. We don't get to go there anymore. But it was February of '92. Great camp out until about 4 o'clock in the morning when the heavens opened up. It rained like a tropical storm, blew and lightning and thunder and all of that like a hurricane. My buddy Bill Whitefield and this was our first camp out. We brought our Webelos out, and we were sleeping in a tent together when the tent started to fold over from the wind. We looked at each other, because our boys were in the same type tent. We looked at each other and said, well, I'll hold up the tent while you get dressed, and you hold up the tent while I get dressed, because we got to go check out the boys. And sure we did. We went over and opened up the boys' tent, and all three of them are standing there just watching 6 inches of water, watching all their stuff floating around, just having a high old time. But thankfully it got better that day and dried up, and we had a good camp out.
So what can you tell us about the history of Troop 40? Who were some of the founders? When was it founded? Some of the sort of basic chronology.
Well, the troop started in 1950, and I can't remember the man's name. I met the original Scoutmaster shortly after I joined the troop, Frank something, but I can't remember for the life of me what his last name was. But I got to know him a little bit. He'd come. We have Scout Sunday every February, and that's where we go to church and we process in and all. He would sit in the front row, and when Mass was over, he'd come let me know what we did right and what we did wrong. But I don't know the chronology of the Scoutmasters very well. I mean, I met him. I met Otis Hatcher, who was Scoutmaster for a pretty good part of the 70s and 80s. And the guy before me was Gary Stanford, who was Scoutmaster for about 5 years. And I'm sure there've been lots of others, short-term interim Scoutmasters, but That's about what I know about the history.
So you started as a scoutmaster in 90.
As assistant scoutmaster in 92, and December 94, my predecessor had to give it up for his work. So I always said that, there was a lot of guys there that were just as qualified, if not more, but I was the only one dumb enough to say yes.
So that was 94, so the troop itself had been in existence for almost 45 years by then.
Yeah. Bug.
And it's always been through St. Rose of Lima?
Yeah. St. Rose started in 48 or 49, and then pretty much right after that, some of the men got together and chartered the troop.
One of the older ones in Harris County?
Second oldest continuously operating troop in the council. There's troops with lower numbers, but they have gaps of not being in operation. We've been in continuous operation for almost 75 years now.
And so, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 long-standing traditions that you have been able to preserve from that first 45 years and then carry that on throughout the next 30 plus years?
I think the biggest one is just trying to keep operating according to the patrol method, which is what was the original design of the scouting program. Boys have their patrol, they run their patrol, they take care of their thing, and the adults our main job is to get them where they need to go, keep them from killing themselves, and get them home. Teach them the skills they need, and then let them succeed or fail as they will. And it's I don't know, just watching, like these kids that are out here today, they're 9, 10 years old, getting ready to join scouting, and they're like clay, and then when they get to be 17, you get to watch that whole progression, and it's amazing. It really is gratifying.
But much of this occurs at a campground.
Scouting is 75% outing. If you write it out, the word 75% of that is outing, and that's where it has to happen. It has to be in the outdoors. The boys, get them away from the electronics and the TVs and the computers and the girls, and get them out here amongst themselves doing the things that boys do. It's good for them.
Are there particular little traditions, and one that grabbed my attention is the can of ashes?
Yeah.
Have been passed down from one year to the next from a fire at a particular camp. I don't know which one it is.
It's the trail camp, the February trail camp. The first.
That to me was just it's so fascinating. If you think about how much history is embedded in that can, and how many the traditions that have been passed forward.
It goes back a long ways. I don't know exactly how long, but a long ways. And that's from the trail camp. Our first February camp out is designed around the Wrobels coming in, and this is their first camp out with the troop as a patrol, operating with the other patrols on their own. And the closing campfire is kind of a special thing. And then when that fire is done, it's cool, we save some of the ashes in the little ceremonial Boy Scout popcorn can and pass that down from year to year. So technically, there's 50-year-old ashes in that camp.
About how many Eagle Scouts have made it through Troop 40 since 1993 or 4?
Just between the three of us for now. This can be revealed later. The last Eagle Scout, Antonio Ramirez, was number 100. I've been moving and I've been going through everything, trying to get rid of stuff that's redundant and no longer, and I can't keep it at home anymore anyway. So I've gone through page by page everything that I've got, and compiled from all the records I've got, all the Eagle Scouts that have come through. I've got a list of the names and the years, and it turns out Antonio's number 100. So he's going to have his ceremony in December, I think. And he doesn't know this yet either, so that's some more springness on him. But let him know he's the number 100. And he'll probably be number 101. Start the next 100. A lot of troops have more, but and not to disparage anyone, but I think we hold quality over quantity quite a bit.
What does it take to become an Eagle Scout?
A lot of work, a lot of dedication. We don't give anybody anything. The Scout program is based on the individual Scout's desire. In Cub Scouts, they pretty much progress as a group from point to point. In Scouting, it's all on the individual. We've had Scouts make Eagle. We had one make it at 15, which was probably a mistake. He probably wouldn't want to hear that, but the typical age is somewhere between 16 and 18. And, they got to do it by the time they're 18. But they got to want it. They got to do it because it does them no good for us to do things for them. That's why we bring them out here. They're over there. Adults are over here. This program that they put on today, that was all Aiden and Nicholas. I didn't have anything to do with it. And as long as the kids that come out here to take part are having fun, then it's a success. And that's how we look at the whole program. We want them to be responsible for their program. They want to be a part of the troop program and be responsible for their part of it. And every time we do something for them, then we've taken away from them what the program is designed to do.
What do you think are some of the differences between the practices of Troop 40 and the traditions versus maybe some of the others?
Well, every troop has its own personality. Some troops are still traditional, but they may do things a little different. We've got one troop the troop that's older than us pretty much does things the same way, but it's like with religion, it's in the dogma, the way you do things. The end result's the same. The goals are the same. The other troop, they use patrol tents where all 6 or 8 boys in a patrol are in the same big, huge tent, kind of like the hotel over there, but even bigger. And they've got 5 or 6 of these big tents that they bring out with them. And their patrol names don't change. They've had the same patrol names probably for 70 years, It's just in the way they do the program, but, the goal is the same.
And for these guys, they're in charge of just about everything. All the way down to the name of the troop, electing the leaders.
Well, there's the name of the troop. The name of the patrols they can change whenever they want with my approval. We've had some inappropriate suggestions in the past, but they can name their patrols. The way things are done as far as elections go, that's standard. Okay, it's like a democracy. You have a campaign, you have secret ballot and all that business, and that's the way it's done. But they can decide where they want to go. They went to Philmont last year. They decided on that. They're going to the Boundary Waters next year. They decided on that. Those that can't go to Boundary Waters are going to go to North Carolina. They decided on that. Our job is to facilitate, train, equip, and get them there and back. And that's what we try to do as our darndest to make it happen.
And have fun along the way.
Absolutely. And it's been, I didn't, like I said before, I didn't do Boy Scouts when I was a kid. But I've had probably more fun since I joined the troop as an adult from a different perspective. As the boys, they want to have fun. They don't have anything to do with the adults. I want to have fun with the adults, and then I get to experience the boys having the fun too. It's a double dip for me, I guess.
And if they have a question, who do they ask that question to?
Well, the standard is they're supposed to ask their patrol leader, and if he doesn't have the answer, they're supposed to go to their senior patrol leader, and if he doesn't have the answer, they should go to their assistant scoutmaster if there's one that's associated with their patrol, and lastly, they should come to me. Doesn't always work that way.
The patrol hierarchy.
That's right.
I remember I saw a T-shirt that said something like, "Don't ask me, ask your
SBL."
SBL. I went, "What's that?"
That's right.
Someone told me, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
Building leadership qualities.
That's what it's all about. It's about leadership. And we try to, there's all kinds of ways for a kid to get some leadership in whatever he's doing, But I think of Boy Scouts as the only organization or the only situation where each and every scout, regardless of his size, abilities, intelligence, or whatever, each and every scout doesn't just have the opportunity for leadership, he's going to have leadership. That's part of the program. Every one of them is going to have, he's guaranteed, he's going to have some leadership training of some kind. And that's over the whole period of time that he's with the troop, which could be, for some, 7-8 years.
What's the story with the kitchen boxes?
Kitchen boxes.
Chuck boxes.
Oh, chuck boxes. Well, that contains everything a patrol needs to go camping with. Skillets and pots and pans, utensils, cleanup tools, everything they need to feed themselves and build fires and all that business.
Any idea how old those chuck boxes are?
They've been here longer than me. With the exception of the one the adults use, which I built, they've all been here longer than me, so I have no idea how old they are. But I know they're more than 30 years old.
I guess the contents in them are as old too.
Some of it probably is, yeah.
So these
You got skillets in there that you can't buy today unless you find something like that in a antique store or something. You can't buy them like that anymore.
So, what about the trailer and the boats? Has that been around a while?
The trailer, that's our second trailer. The first one was purchased for us back around the early 90s sometime by the Men's Club of St. Rose. And we took it camping one time, got it stuck in the mud, had to get it pulled out with a tractor, got that stuck in the mud, had to get them both pulled out with a bigger tractor. And we thought we'd bent the axle because that's what it looked like underneath. Actually, it was built that way, but we thought we'd bent it. So some of the parents got together and purchased the one we have now, which of course is considerably bigger, so now we take considerably more stuff with us when we go camping.
What are some
This is real close to town, and it's a nice camp. It's not overrun with civilization around it, we started going to El Rancho Sema for summer camp when they opened in 1954, I think it was. And we went there every year until they closed in 2017. We like to go to Enchanted Rock. We like to go to mostly we like to go to private property, places where we don't have to deal with other people, where we can run our program the way we want. And if the boys get noisy and loud, so what? They're not disturbing anybody. Because if boys aren't making noise, they're not having fun. And that's what it's all about. Joe Caceres is the troop assistant scoutmaster. He's been with us for 7 or 8 years now. He's an Eagle Scout from the Valley. Did his scouting down there. And Charlie Patu is our advancement chairman. Our troop committee chairman is Tyler Sowers. Tyler started here as a 10-year-old Cub Scout a few years ago. And we've got a conglomeration of dads who, do the things that we need to have done to get the program to the boys. The church is a chartering institution. In other words, the church has made an agreement with the Boy Scouts of America to operate a troop. And the church really, it's for the benefit of their parish and the neighborhood, obviously. But, they provide us with a place to meet. And that's basically all they need to do. We've been pretty much autonomous and self-supporting for all these years. The troop helps, the church will allow us to do our fundraisers and things like that on the property, and they give us a place to keep our things. We had a scout hut for over 60 years, which served us well, but then the church needed to build a new school, so the scout hut had to go away. But, that's just progress, right? We've had several at Somerville Lake, which, most of this is before the advent of the cell phone. Because now, you can look at your cell phone, okay, it's going to rain in 26 minutes, it's going to rain for 15 minutes, and then get dry. Before that, it was just dumb luck if you didn't get rained on. But at Somerville Lake, Somerville Lake is big and open. There's no trees, there's no cover. So when a storm comes through, it just comes through. We went there with a couple of catamarans one time. A catamaran's got a great big mast, aluminum mast. And we saw the storm coming and thunder and lightning and all that business. We figured, well, it's probably not a good idea to have these two 30-foot lightning rods sticking up in the air. So we laid them over on the side. So the pontoon's up in the air and the mast is on the ground. The storm came through hard enough that it slid those two catamarans about 30 feet along the ground. Just made a furrow with that mast in the bank there. And but we've gone through a lot of heavy storms. Thankfully, no one's ever gotten hurt. A lot of people have gotten wet. A lot of tents have been blown down or blown over. There's been times when people have been chasing their tents down the riverbank or whatever. But that first one and those two, there were two like that at Somerville. Probably are the most memorable weather-related events. And of course, the guys who went to film out this year, they got hailed on pretty good, rained on pretty good, and that's just normal there. Weather in the mountains is unpredictable. The wall tents that the boys use, they've been here longer than I have. They probably started using those when the troop started, because back in the early days, that's what Boy Scouts used. They didn't have the fancy tents that you get at REI, things like that. So some of those old tents are probably very old. The one that I have actually belonged to one of the previous scoutmasters, and back in the 70s and 80s. And when he passed, his family gave it to me. So it's still a good tent. His name was Otis Hatcher. He was scoutmaster for several years. He was during the heyday, I guess, of the Mickey Mouse Patrol. I think their strongest influence on the troop was during the 70s and 80s. And both of his sons went through the troop. Both of them were Eagle Scouts. And I got to know him. And like I said, when he passed, that was into history.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a dilemma like that where you were sitting to yourself and you thought you couldn't give the troop your all?
Of course. It's been 30 years. There's been times when I've thought, like this morning when I got out of my cot and I couldn't move. Maybe it's time for me to give it up. But there's always something that changes my mind. I was a stationary engineer. Now that sounds great, but it's really not. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a locomotive engineer. I wanted to drive trains. I wound up being a stationary engineer, which is exactly the same thing, only you don't go anywhere. You still operate a boiler and steam and all that business, but you don't go anywhere. So that's what I started out as. And then over the years, boilers and buildings became out of favor and everything went to electric. So it changed from stationary engineer to building engineer. That's what I did for most of the 50 years. I worked for 3 or 4 companies over that period of time. One of them, I stayed in one property for 28 years. And then they sold that, and the new people wanted to change. So I moved on,
The Scoutmaster beads.
Oh, the Scoutmaster beads.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was created, I don't know when, long before me. But the Scoutmaster beads is made up of long rows of red beads. And every year, we give our adults a pair of red beads. So each pair represents 1 year's service to the troop as an adult. And there were people who had far more beads than I've got, but they've all gone home. So now Mr. Herrera, Deacon Ed, probably has just as many, because he's been with the troop with a year or so one way or the other as long as I have. Well, the patch, see, that's the back hurts. The patch was developed, this hat was developed in 2000 for our 50th anniversary. The boys had a contest to design the hat. And actually the boys had a contest previous to that to design the graphics on the side of the trailer, and they took this from that. So this was our 2010 anniversary thing. 2000. It does say 50 years, right? Yeah, it says 50 years. So that was 2000. 2010 was this. And we had a kind of a competition to come up with what we would put on the patch. The skull we have an old skull somewhere in the container that used to hang in the scout hut, which that's based on that, and then, you know, established 1950 and so forth.
So you got a 75-year anniversary coming up.
We do. 25 is the 75th anniversary.
It's a long run.
It is. I haven't been here that long. Sometimes I feel like it, but you know, I haven't been here that long. You know, for those that don't understand it, Scouting is a program for boys, run by boys, under the leadership of a man or men. And that's what we try to continue to do here. It's worked since 1910. There's no reason to believe it won't continue to work that way. Just getting harder and harder due to societal changes.
Nice.
We're Troop 40.
Be prepared.